let's go to the coaching seat segment here. I'm looking forward to that. Obviously, we talked about a coach just now in college making a transition, but now we're going to talk about coaches that's going to be making a transition to the unemployment line. Because right now, these coaches right here are indeed in danger of losing their job. But to make it a little bit more easy for us, right, to determine which in the pecking order should be worried the most about losing their job, we're going to rank them. So what we're doing here is we're going to go mild, meaning that, okay, yeah, your seat is hot, but you do have a little bit of wiggle room to potentially survive. Hot, meaning, yeah, it's about to go down. And scorching hot, meaning, yeah, you might get fired next week. Okay. So we got 3 different categories. All right. And Zach, if we give them hot or scorching hot, we're going to play my favorite clip here.
You're fired. What?
All right. Zach, you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's begin. We are going to go with our first guy right now. All right. We're going to talk about Mike McDaniel. Let's go, Mike McDaniel. The level on him. And Zach, I would love to begin here with Mike McDaniel. I'm gonna go scorching hot. And look, I know the Dolphins won 3 straight games after starting 2-7. Woohoo! Okay, yeah. All right, cool. After firing GM Chris Greer, I thought it was a good chance that Mike McDaniel was on his way to being the next head coach fired during the regular season. But these couple of wins in a row, to me, has at least bought him time. And I think a lot of the reason why they were able to win back-to-back is because it has a lot to do with the running game. I think the Dolphins has been able to get the running game going over the last couple of weeks. In fact, the last 3 weeks, they have had at least 160 yards on the ground. Now, context is everything. You look at their last 3 opponents, the Bills, the Commanders, the Saints, all had terrible rushing defenses, 30th, 27th, and 20th in rushing yards allowed. Okay. Now Miami still has the Steelers on the road. They still got to play the Buccaneers. They still got to play the Patriots, who may rest their starters at that point. Who knows? If this team could at least get to 9 wins and over 500, then I think, yeah, Mike McDaniel could potentially keep his job. But that's a tall task right here. The truth is, Zach, this team has been regressing, all right, over the last couple of years. All right, I remember when this team put up 70 points against the Broncos a couple of years ago. And right now, you fast forward, the Broncos are ahead in their division in first place with a commanding lead to win that division. And right now, the Dolphins are at the bottom along with the Jets right now. Okay. Mike McDaniel has also not shown the ability to be a leader of men. There was a lot of mess going on earlier in the regular season. Jalen Ramsey got traded because of that mess. So again, Tua. But that's another conversation to have on another episode. I mean, Tua's clearly not the guy going forward and shouldn't be the guy going forward. But with that being said, you fired the GM. I think the Dolphins are still moving in the wrong direction. I don't think that Mike McDaniel should be a part of the future. I'm going to go scorching hot on this one.
You're fired. What?
Zach, the mic is yours.
Forgot the clip was going. I'm gonna say hot. I think he was scorching hot, but the last 3 wins in a row have kind of moved him off. I've said from the beginning, I do think that the Dolphins owner, Stephen Ross, likes Mike McDaniel. I think he really wants it to work. And the one thing I will say too is that I do think Chris Greer was more responsible for this team's failures than Mike McDaniel was. The number of draft picks, the number of terrible free agent signings he made, I think had a big reason to do with why this team wasn't playing well. But since that blowout loss to the Browns, like the Dolphins have been playing better football. They've won 4 out of their last 5 games. Now, I do think that the way this season ends will determine everything. Will, you got me?
Yeah, I got you.
All right, cool. Sorry, I just had a number of different tabs open. So I think the way this season ends will determine everything. But at the end of the day, when you fire your GM, the head coach has to go with him because there's going to be no real GM candidate that's going to want to take the job that has no prior experience of working with Mike McDaniel. The one thing about Miami that has really stood out to me, though, Tua Tagovailoa has just not been playing well. He has to be better. I thought that he was really the only reason why the Saints were even in that game. And to be honest, the Dolphins got fortunate. The Saints didn't come back and win. They almost they recovered an onside kick and almost had a chance to win that game in the end. So I agree. I think the Dolphins have been moving in the wrong direction. But I do think deep down, Stephen Ross really likes Mike McDaniel. He wants to keep him. And even though I move on from him, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he's back.
Yeah, I mean, I think after you fire Brian Flores, who had a similar scenario here in which he was winning games at the end. They started off bad. He won a couple games in a row, and we thought his job was safe, and he got the boot. To tell you the truth, I don't see why McDaniel shouldn't get the boot as well. Anyway, we're going to move on to the next guy that we have here. Let's go Pete Carroll. How are we feeling about Pete Carroll? Zach, I'll give it to you first this time.
I think the seat is scorching hot, and the Raiders, man, you could have said whatever you wanted about hiring Pete Carroll and bringing in Geno Smith, but I thought at the very least, like, this team would at least be respectable, at least be competitive. I think that's why Mark Davis brought them in, because all of his past hires, like Mark Davis, say what you want about him, I think he really does want to win, and he's tried just about everything in the book, right? He paid the big-time premium money to bring in John Gruden. That didn't work. He hired the hotshot coordinator that everyone respected in Josh McDaniels. That didn't work. He brought in a guy in Pete Carroll that brought his team to multiple Super Bowls, that was itching to get back into coaching. That didn't work. Like, the Chip Kelly hire was obviously a disaster. And the one thing about the Raiders that really stands out to me, Lil, and I'm curious for your opinion on this, is if I'm Mark Davis, I have to call Tom Brady, the guy that is seemingly making all of the important decisions for this team, into a room. And I got to say that I'm going to say this, Tom, how much money is it going to take for me to pay you to get out of this Fox gig and commit to being the guy who runs this team, and that being your only priority and the only focus? Because if I'm a Raider fan, I would just have enough of this half in, half out mentality. Like, if Tom Brady wants to run the team and make important decisions, that's fine, but he shouldn't be doing the Fox job as well. And I think that's something that needs to be addressed this offseason. Like, I would be tired of him just only showing up to the primetime games and sitting in the coaching box, but he's obviously focused on the game he's broadcasting during the week, during the actual game. Like, he's not watching every game. And I do think you can make the case if you tell Tom Brady, like, look, spend this offseason scouting quarterbacks and tell me which quarterback you want us to draft, he should be able to get that decision right. But I don't know how many other decisions he could make. He could get right if his focus isn't entirely on what's going on with the Raiders, because it's crazy. Just about every move this team made this offseason has really blown up in their face, including, of course, the draft pick of Ashton Genty, who I don't even think it's entirely his fault, but why are you drafting a running back when you have one of the worst offensive lines in the league? Like, that pick is looking like a total disaster right now. They have to get the quarterback position right. And I also think Max Crosby needs to be traded this offseason. We saw the Browns make the same mistake with Myles Garrett. He literally requested a trade. They had an opportunity to get 2 or 3 first-round picks back to really trigger their rebuild. They didn't do that. I don't think the Raiders could make the same mistake. I want to see Max Crosby get dealt this offseason.
Yeah. Scorching hot, Pete Carroll. Sorry, man. You had an industrious career, and I think it's time for you to hang him up. Enjoy yourself. Spend time with the family. You're old now, man. The league has passed you by a little bit. And look, I think the Raiders this entire season, there was a glimmer of hope in the beginning. When you look at the hire of Pete Carroll, we respect him as a culture builder. You looked at the signing of Geno Smith. You thought that you could get worse at starting quarterbacks than that. And you thought that, maybe this team could be a little bit competitive. Sure, we're not going to predict them to win the division or even come in second, but at least be competitive enough to be respectable on the opposing calendar. But unfortunately, there have been a disaster. Geno Smith has been a disaster. 14 interceptions. All right. He's looked terrible. He looked like Jets Geno Smith. So I think you have to attribute that to coaching and obviously organizational moves as well. I do agree with your point. I think Tom Brady has his hands in too many different pots, obviously being a broadcaster, some of the other stuff that he's into, and obviously being a minority owner as well. And I just think that right now this organization is in need of some stern leadership. You taking a running back with that high of a pick with a bad offensive line? Didn't you learn from the Giants when they did the same thing with Saquon? I mean, there's so much things going on with this team. Offensively inadequate, wide receiving core. I mean, who are all these guys other than Trey Tucker that I know of? I mean, this team is really bad. And Pete Carroll, man, I thought that he was going to be able to do something a little bit, like at least have a couple wins there. 2 wins this year is not a good look. I think that his seat is scorching hot. And yeah, definitely. And you know what's the crazy part about this, Zach? And the worst part of it all is that Kansas City's not even good this year. All right, a team that has put a stranglehold over this division for the last 6 to 7 years is not even a factor right now. And you are that bad. To me, it got to be scorching hot.
And the Chiefs.
You're fired. What?
Exactly.
Didn't the Chiefs beat them like 30-0, and the Raiders had like 5 first downs? For the
That
entire
was
game?
the only game that I know of, and I could be wrong, that the Chiefs won in a blowout fashion. Or any game they played in this year.
Yeah, that and the Ravens game, I would say. Crazy.
Exactly. All right, we're going to move on to the next guy here. We are going to go with, let's go with Raheem Morris. And Zach, I would love to start us off here. I'm going to go scorching hot. You know, look, some guys, and this is where I will use the saying that we heard of before plenty of times. Some coordinators are just meant to be coordinators. Raheem Morris is that exactly. We saw his first stint as a head coach in Tampa, where he was 17 and 31, got fired from that job, and he was able to rebrand himself as a coordinator. Did an amazing job. Was the highly doubted coordinator out there, him and D'Amico Ryans, and he got another opportunity. And look, the Falcons are the worst coach team in football. Period. To me, you know, if you watch them, they are. Right? You look at special teams, it's been a disaster all year long. It was a disaster on Sunday. They gave up a 83-yard kickoff return against the Jets. It prompted Morris to admit to kicking the ball out of the end zone purposely a bunch. That shows a lack of confidence that he has in his coverage unit. All right. They heavily penalized as well. And I get it. I get that he's a player's coach. But again, he's just better off being a defensive coordinator. Okay. The quarterback situation is not looking great. I thought that Michael Penix shows a flash or two, but he's injured. And I'm not sure, Zach, if you saw that interview, a press conference that he had where he was asked about who does he go to for leadership. I'm not sure if you saw that. He mentioned his girl. Okay? When the reporter asks who does he go to for leadership when he's down or if something happens on the field, he goes to his girl. He didn't say Raheem Morris. He didn't say the coordinator, nothing. He goes to his girl. That goes to show you that this coaching staff is inadequate. And right now, my guy Raheem Morris, although I like the brother, although he's highly respected amongst his peers in the league, he need to go on that unemployment line for a minute until he get back another DC job.
I agree. At the very least, like, you could disagree with the Falcons' logic when it came to the offseason of 2024. Of course, they signed Kirk Cousins for big money and they pay Michael Penix, which was not smart decision-making. But at the very least, if you're Arthur Blank, you could at least say, we'll have competent quarterback play. Odds are one of these two guys will work. And it hasn't. And I'm not ready to give up on Michael Penix. My number one concern with him right now, and it always has been, his injury history. The offensive line injuries haven't helped. But Zach Robinson is completely in over his head. This guy was labeled as the league's next great offensive coordinator. He has no idea what he's doing, and neither does Raheem Morris. And this Jet game, man, there's no reason why they should have lost. Bijan Robinson had a phenomenal game, one of his best games of the season. I know they didn't have Drake London, but you lost to the Jets and Tyrod Taylor. It's a bad look. The Carolina Panthers are clearly ahead of Atlanta right now, especially after their big win over the Rams. And similar to what you said about the Chiefs, I personally think you could make the same case for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year, the team that has won this division the last handful of years. I don't think they're a great football team right now. I mean, Emeka Egbuka has literally fallen off a cliff. I thought this guy was supposed to be the next great wide receiver. Where has he been for the last month? Chris Godwin is healthy. Bucky Irving is healthy. Their offense didn't look great to me on Sunday, even though they did beat the Arizona Cardinals. So this division is wide open. Atlanta should have won it this year. They didn't. And I agree. Raheem Morris needs to go, and they need to hire a coach that could support Michael Penix. After you brought up that interview, I thought it was a good point. Crazy answer.
Definitely. Let's hear it.
You're fired. What?
Yeah, Raheem, sorry, but got to go. Anyway, we're going to move on to Zac Taylor. Zac, the mic is yours.
I think it's scorching hot, but the best part about the NFL is you have the opportunity to change that really quickly. It all depends about wins and losses. And the thing about the Bengals is we've seen this before with them, right? Last year, this team was looking dead in the water and then somehow managed to end the season on a 6-game winning streak. And even though it wasn't enough to get into the playoffs, they almost did it. The year they went to the Super Bowl, the year after that when they went to the AFC Championship game, they were playing very good football late in the season. Now, I got to give them credit. Like, I did not expect them to go into Baltimore and really dominate the Ravens from start to finish. We know how bad this defense has been, but they've made enough. They came ready to play in that game, and they made enough plays to win. The fumble on Isaiah Likely in the end zone, I thought, changed the game. The pass interference call on Zay Flowers, it was a kind of a ticky-tack call, but they got away with it, and that call changed the game as well. They did a really good job containing Lamar Jackson. But the one thing about this game, Will, is this. It kind of hit me watching it towards the end. The Bengals definitely had this game circled on their calendar. Like, the Ravens beat them in 2 classic games last year that the Bengals, you could make the case, should have won both times, and they didn't. So the Bengals came ready to play on Thanksgiving. It was Joe Burrow's first game back. It was a great win. But it only matters if you could continue to rack up some victories. And it doesn't get any easier this week when you have to go on the road to face the Buffalo Bills. And I'm not confident at all they're going to win that game. As a matter of fact, I'm going to say it. I think they lose. I think the Bills are going to beat the Bengals on Sunday. And if they do, that probably means the Bengals are missing the playoffs. And if the Bengals are missing the playoffs, Zac Taylor has to go. There's no reason why their defense should be this bad continuously. Joe Burrow has had a tough time staying healthy. I just don't think Zac Taylor gives them some tremendous coaching advantage in these games. I think he could be another guy that's better suited to be an offensive coordinator. I would have no problem hiring him as my team's offensive coordinator, but as head coach, especially as the Bengals head coach in the middle of Joe Burrow's prime, I don't think he's the right guy for the job. So I think his seat should be scorching hot.
I'm going to go hot. I think that Zac Taylor, when you look at his record with Joe Burrow, it's 45-32-1. And without Joe Burrow, it's 9-28-1. So translation, Joe Burrow is the most valuable player on the Bengals team. And translation, that Zac Taylor is riding shotgun. And look, I do agree that, if you want to make use of the prime, other than what you can do defensively, as far as architecture and whatnot, revamping that whole entire unit, is getting him a coach that could be like an Andy Reid, get him a coach that could be like a Bill Belichick to Tom Brady and whatnot. I would put Sean McDermott and Zac Taylor in the same tier, but I do think Sean McDermott is a little bit of a better coach than Zac Taylor as well. So, clearly Joe Burrow probably got the least coach out of all the Lamar, Justin, Patrick Mahomes. He probably got the worst coach. I agree there. But the reality is, Joe Burrow happens to be one of the most injury-prone quarterbacks in football. So because of that, how much of a leash do you give Zac Taylor, knowing that your quarterback, at the end of the day, we know his record when your quarterback is playing. So we know the necessity for him to be on the field. But because he's not on the field most of the time, how does that impact coaching? How does it impact how you look at coaching and how you look at Zac Taylor for being the guy for the squad? And I think what it is, look, I think the Bengals have a golden opportunity to run the table and a chance to win the North as well. They have a chance to win the North. I don't think they're mathematically out of it to win the North. I think they have a shot. I think they have a shot to run the table. I actually think that they will go on the road to beat Buffalo. I think it's going to be a 50-50 game. I think that's going to be the number one game to watch at 1 p.m. But I do think this team could get some momentum like they did last year. And if they can get past Buffalo and beat the Ravens again, then the rest of the schedule is a cakewalk. And in such scenario, I don't think he loses his job. However, I'm not going to make this pick with the assumption that they're going to go undefeated because we don't have no evidence that they will. So that's why I'm going to go hot instead of mild here. Zac Taylor.
I just don't trust them to keep doing that. Like, wouldn't it be so Bengals to just completely no-show this game in Buffalo? Just because the more I thought about it, like, well, you remember those Bengals-Ravens games last year, both of them. The Bengals offense was unreal. I think Joe Burrow threw like something crazy, like 13 touchdowns in 2 games against the Ravens, and they lost both games. One of them came in Thursday Night Football in prime time. They were a 2-point conversion away from winning that game. They weren't able to get it done. I want to see them, even though Buffalo is a big game, that is an interesting turnaround on a longer week, non-division game now. Let's see them back it up and do it again, because you're right. The AFC North is a wide open division right now. Baltimore has not looked good. Pittsburgh has not looked good, but it's the Bengals, and this defense is just still among the worst in the league. I want to see them continue to play well and continue to build on what we saw from them last week. But there's no doubt, man. Like, when Joe Burrow is on the field, the Bengals could beat anyone at any time.
All they got to do is be consistent for the next couple of weeks, because and I know that maybe just saying it, making it sound easy and whatnot, cliche and whatnot, but you look at it, the Steelers are self-destructing. The Ravens cannot handle adversity whatsoever. Okay, anytime things don't go their way, they crumble, whether it's blown leads, whether it's drop passes. Lamar Jackson starts to pressing out. Before, when you watch that game, Lamar Jackson was making some nice passes down the field. And because they had a couple drops and a couple things like fumble, like the Isaiah Likely thing, you saw Lamar Jackson's game go down from there. That's because his team lacks the mental fortitude to withstand when things don't go their way. And I just think that right now they could be self-exploding as well. Luckily for them, they play another team that's doing that in the Steelers. So that's obviously going to be a pivotal game as well. But I also think that clearly the Bills and the Bengals are going to be even more pivotal. And we'll see if the Bengals could go up there in Orchard Park or whatever. I think they changed the name now. Go up there in Buffalo and beat the Buffalo Bills. Zac Taylor, this is for you, my guy.
You're fired. What?
All right. Kevin Stefanski. Okay. Zach, how are we feeling about his job security?
Well, man, this has to be the most interesting one of the group because, look, I know you look at the final score of this game on Sunday, right? The 49ers beat the Browns 27-8. But I just thought, and a lot of NFL games are like this, I get it. But, man, if you just look at that score, you probably thought the 49ers dominated the game. It was never in doubt. And that's not the truth. The Cleveland Browns were very competitive for the first half of this game, really for the first 2.5 quarters of this game. And I just felt watching this game, look, we could get into this conversation right now, fine. Stefanski would not even let Shedeur Sanders try to make a play. And there were multiple opportunities for him to do so, and he just refused to put the ball in his hands. And it's clear that he doesn't trust him. And it's clear when you watch the Cleveland Browns with Shedeur Sanders, Jimmy Haslam, the owner, is the only reason why Shedeur Sanders is out there playing for this Cleveland Browns team right now. The Browns drafted Dylan Gabriel ahead of Shedeur Sanders. They clearly like Dylan Gabriel more than Shedeur Sanders. And I think that is a bad look for Kevin Stefanski because it's clear when you watch both of these guys play, Shedeur Sanders is the better prospect. He has the better physical tools. He has the better intangibles. And I do believe Shedeur before the Raiders game when he said, I am what the Browns have been looking for. I do believe he is built to be a starting quarterback in this league, and he has all the talent. Now, does he hold on to the ball a little bit too long, and is that something he needs to work on? Sure. Did he miss that one deep throw to Jerry Jeudy early in the game that could have changed things? Sure. But it's clear that the Cleveland Browns and this organization and the people in charge are not on the same page, and that is a nightmare from the beginning. The Browns easily could have won this game. They made a couple of just self-inflicted wounds that really cost them. And I think when it comes to Stefanski and his tenure in Cleveland, overall, he's done a good job, of course, winning Coach of the Year twice, bringing the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs twice, ending their long streak of not being able to win a playoff game. That did happen, and Stefanski deserves credit for that. And I think you could put a lot of the blame on the decision to trade for Deshaun Watson, and that is on the owner, Jimmy Haslam. I do think he was the sole reason behind that move. And this team does have some good young players, but watching that game, it was clear Kevin Stefanski didn't trust his quarterback, and I think that's ultimately why they lost. So I would call his seat hot right now, but this is probably the coaching situation that I have the least feel on. Like, I could see him getting fired. I could see him coming back. I don't really know what he needs to show in order to have Jimmy Haslam make a decision. Like, I really, this is, of all of these options, I have no feel for this. Like, I could really see it go either way. I don't think long-term Cleveland views Shedeur as a guy that could be their quarterback of the future, but I think they should. And if Shedeur Sanders does get out of Cleveland and get a spot somewhere else and take advantage of that, it would be a brutal look for Stefanski. So I'm going to say hot, but I'm curious what you have to say, because I was just frustrated watching that game on Sunday because I thought Shedeur Sanders could have made a play or two to give the Browns some juice and maybe put them on top of San Francisco. But unfortunately, Kevin Stefanski didn't give him the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, I'm going to go hot. And I think when you talk about what does Stefanski need to show, he needs to show that he can build Shedeur up in these last couple of games, to make progress with Shedeur Sanders on and off the field. Because I do believe that Kevin Stefanski is a good coach. You don't be the only active coach other than Andy Reid to win at least 2 coaches of the year by accident. It doesn't happen. I think the Browns put Stefanski in a tough spot with incompetent franchise organizational decision making. Firstly, with the Deshaun Watson trade a couple years ago that has not aged well from the very beginning. From the drafting of multiple quarterbacks in the same draft class, now you having to divide the playing time and the snap share. You also traded for Kenny Pickett. To me, this was a lose-lose situation coming into the year for Stefanski. And unfortunately, the way how the NFL works, according to Mike Tomlin, you're only judged by your circumstance, or you don't get judged by your circumstances, but what you do in those circumstances. Look at me quoting Mike Tomlin here on this show, but that's just the reality, the way how the NFL works. And even though the Browns as an organization did not put Stefanski in a win situation this year, he's still the head coach. He still has to show some progress with Shedeur. And I think one of the underlying things here is that the media with this whole Shedeur situation has pumped up Shedeur's brain to believe that he's being sabotaged in a way, and they're pushing that narrative. So with them pushing that narrative, does that create a divide between Shedeur Sanders, who was on the bench for the majority of the year, and the head coach? Because I do believe in order for Stefanski to keep his job, he's going to need the backing at least by Shedeur Sanders. And if there's a divide that was created by the media, I think Stefanski is going to have to do a good job as a coach on building that relationship with Shedeur off the field so they can build it on the field and get something going. And if they can do that, then this team could be not this team, but Stefanski could keep his job to be able to work with Shedeur going forward.
I just have a hard time thinking he could do that because it's clear he never wanted him in the first place. And I'm going to say this right now, Will. There is a 0% chance that both Kevin Stefanski and Shedeur Sanders are back in Cleveland to start next season.
I could see that, yeah.
It's not happening. One of them might be back. None of them might be back, but there is no shot both of them will be back. So, I was just frustrated because I'm telling you, I'm a Shedeur Sanders believer. Like, he's shown me enough throughout his college career and his brief NFL career that I'm not going overboard, but I think he could be the Browns' next franchise quarterback of the future. That's all I'm going to say. But I think so far, Kevin Stefanski, it's clear that he doesn't trust him. And it's clear that he never wanted him in the first place. And no matter how talented you are, if you're a young quarterback walking into a situation like that, you're not going to have a chance to succeed. So I think ultimately how this ends up is Shedeur isn't going to be a Cleveland Brown for the long term. And just hopefully there is a coach somewhere that agrees with me and sees the talent and sees the potential in him and could help support him.
Yeah, I mean, look, Shedeur Sanders needs to stop holding that football like a grudge. And Stefanski needs to coach him to stop doing that. I'm pretty sure he is. And we'll see. Zach, do you think that Stefanski would be a sought-after head coach if he gets fired? Because I think he should be.
I do. And the 2 spots that come to mind are, one, we already talked about, Atlanta. I think he would be a good fit with Michael Penix. And then the other would be Tennessee with Cam Ward. The reason they haven't come up yet is because they already fired their coach in Brian Callahan. But I think if I'm either one of those teams, I would love to bring Kevin Stefanski in. It would depend which quarterback of those two he prefers. But yeah, this guy, he's a good coach. I agree with you there, but I don't think he has any interest in coaching Shadur Sanders at the moment.
Yeah, I like the Falcons pick as well. Yeah, Stefanski, we don't know how long you're going to be without a job, if you are going to be without a job, but as of right now,
You're fired. What?
all right, we're going to move on to the next guy. Let's go to Jonathan Gannon. And I'm going to go with Scorching Hot. This guy, and I'm going to keep it short with this one. This guy has gotten a look for 3 years. That's all the time you need. Okay, the Cardinals didn't make the playoffs in that span. He has to go. All right, the implosion when it comes to the fourth quarter of these games this season shows that they're not well coached and they inadequate when it comes to winning when it matters the most. Okay, the reason why the Broncos are how you know they're a good coach team is because they win those type of games in the fourth quarter, no matter what. And right now, the Cardinals have done everything to lose those type of games. They've been close, they've been competitive, but they can't get over the hump because they're not a good coach team. And I think that this team needs a reset, a full reset from both Kyler Murray and Jonathan Gannon. I never bought into that partnership before, even when he took the job and Kyler came back from that injury and they won a couple games. I believe they beat the Eagles that first year and whatnot. Even when they had that little success, kind of that little like, oh, okay, maybe this might be a good. I never bought into that. I thought it was a horrible fit. They both got to go. Scorching hot.
I would agree, but it's funny. I was actually higher on Gannon a month ago. Like I'm telling you, when they beat the Cowboys, I thought this team could be a playoff sleeper, and I was willing to pin all of their problems on Kyler because it's clear that they were playing competitive with Jacoby Brissett. It's clear that their defense was getting healthier and playing better. The Cowboys' offense is great, and they really dominated that game on defense from start to finish. But I agree. How many close games do you have to lose for me to say you're not the guy? Every game this team plays is close, and every game they play just about, they lose. And I do think Gannon has caught some tough breaks on the defensive side of the ball, especially. They have not been able to stay healthy. But I think he profiles as a guy that should just be a coordinator. I think he's a smart defensive mind. And I actually really like his defensive coordinator, Nick Rallis. Like, if I'm a Cardinal fan, that would be my one hesitation with this is I think Gannon's defensive coordinator is one of the best young defensive minds in football. And I would have a tough time letting him go. I think he has a really bright future. But cleaning house isn't the worst option for this team right now. They're going to have to find their starting quarterback. And the Gannon-Kyler connection, I agree, it hasn't worked. But my question is, who deserves the more blame out of that duo? And who is going to have success more at their next destination?
Well, Kyler was here before Gannon, so I think in that question, you would have to go Kyler there because he was here before. He failed with Cliff Kingsbury. And we all know Cliff Kingsbury is a good play caller. I mean, he's showing it now, even without his best quarterback. So, yeah, I agree.
But there's going to be a team that, like, Kyler is going to be a starting quarterback to start next year. And I'm pretty confident Jonathan Gannon will either be the Cardinals head coach or their defensive coordinator. So they're both going to have the opportunity to answer that question.
So you want to go with Jonathan Gannon? You're going to go?
I'll go scorching hot just because they're on a 4-game losing streak. Even with the injuries, I don't think they should be this bad, but it's just close loss after close loss.
I agree.
You're fired. What?
I'm going to give an honorable mention here. And Zach, feel free to give an honorable mention as well of your choice, of your choosing. I talked about him earlier in the show. I'm just going to put Mike Tomlin in this category. I'm going to put him in mild. And the reason why I'm going to do mild instead of hot is because I don't believe the Steelers have it in them. I don't. And I do believe this team still has a golden opportunity with the Bengals' lackluster defense, with the Ravens crumbling, okay, mentally they losing it, to still win this division. And if they do that and make the playoffs, even if they lose and get thrown out of there, like they're getting thrown out of the club because they got fake IDs, which I believe is going to happen, I still don't believe the Steelers have it in them to fire this guy. But I do think if they lose against the Ravens and they lose that lead that they had where they should have won this division by Thanksgiving, by last week, a couple days ago, and they lose that and they don't win this division, then I think there's a chance that the fans and the media can make Art Rooney wake up and fire this guy. I'm going to go Mike Tomlin. I'm going to go mild.
So I said the day the Steelers signed Aaron Rodgers and the day they traded for Jalen Ramsey that this has to be the year. If Mike Tomlin, he has to not only make the playoffs, but he has to win a playoff game. If he doesn't win a playoff game this year, he has to go. And I'm sticking by that. And I think mild is a good way to put it because for as bad as the Steelers have played lately, everything is still right in front of them. They still could easily win their division. If you have a home playoff game, you could easily win it. So it's that simple. If he can't win a playoff game, he has to go.
I agree with you. Zach, you got any honorable mention that you want to throw in here?
I do. And we've spent this whole segment talking about coaches, but I wanted to throw out two general managers that I think their seats should at least be scorching hot. One of them, we saw his team play last night. And talking about wake-up calls, this has to be a wake-up call, and that, of course, is Joe Schoen with the New York Giants. You cannot have this guy lead your coaching search. It's really that simple. I thought that last night was an embarrassing look for the Giants. The Patriots, for as good of a team as they are right now, they were missing their whole left side of their offensive line, including Will Campbell, a guy they took with the top 5 pick. You would think that the Giants, they have Brian Burns, they have Dexter Lawrence, they have Kayvon Thibodeau, they have Abdul Carter. You would think that maybe that defensive line would be able to wreck the game. Nope, it didn't happen. Special teams continues to be a massive issue with this team. And it turns out that even though Brian Daboll wasn't doing a great job, firing him just wasn't going to solve all of this team's issues, even with Jackson Dart back. So I think the Giants should fire Joe Schoen. I think his seat should be scorching hot. And I do hope that last night's results, combined with how this season ends, does wake John Mara up to that. I know it said on the press release during Daboll's firing that Joe Schoen would be leading the search for a next head coach, but that cannot happen. I'm hoping this is a similar situation to what we saw in Jacksonville last year with Trent Baalke when Shad Khan said he would be leading the coaching search, but everyone knew that there wouldn't be a candidate that is good that would want to take that job and work with him. I think the same applies for Joe Schoen with the Giants here. The other guy I wanted to mention, and I don't know how many people's radar this guy is on when it comes to hot seats, because up until the past few weeks, this team had been a great story. They've been playing good football, but all of a sudden that's out the window, and that's Chris Ballard with the Colts. Like, if the Colts don't win the AFC South, I think Chris Ballard's seat should be scorching hot. And as much as it pains me to say it, like, if you're going to fire Chris Ballard, like, we might have to start having that conversation about Shane Steichen as well. I think Shane Steichen has done a pretty good job, but the bottom line is Chris Ballard has now been the Colts GM for close to a decade now, and this team not only can't win in the playoffs, but they can't win the division. Like, the Colts haven't won the AFC South since 2015, and I thought that Sunday was the perfect opportunity for them to get right. They really played pretty well for the most part against the Chiefs, but Kansas City made the key plays when it mattered the most. And with Houston coming off a few big wins with C.J. Stroud back, I was thinking maybe they would go into that game feeling fat and happy. I know there were some controversial calls, but nope. I thought the Texans were the better team in that game, and it really changed my judgment a bit. Like, the Texans, I think, are all of a sudden, they're in a great position to win the AFC South. Like, there's no better defense in the NFL. I thought C.J. Stroud played really well in that game. Maybe, just maybe, their offense is starting to figure things out. I know Daniel Jones is playing with a fractured fibula right now, which is not ideal, but this Colts team has no way to win if Jonathan Taylor isn't rushing for 200 yards a game. They have to find more ways to win than that, and they weren't able to do that on Sunday. And it gets to a point, like, if the Colts collapse and don't win this year, I think Chris Ballard has to go, and he should be on the scorching hot seat as well.
I mean, look, when you talk about Joe Schoen and Chris Ballard, I mean, Eli Manning and Peyton Manning ain't walking through those doors. And I think a lot of their issues as a football team has to start with quarterback, or obviously the Giants, they got Jackson Dart, and that was a Brian Daboll single-handed pick right there. We'll see, but I agree. I don't trust him at all to get the coaching hire right. And one could argue this is going to be the most important Giants coaching hire in a long time. Okay, this is the pivotal part right here. You got your franchise guy. You need a guy that you can trust to be able to hire the right guy. And I don't trust Joe Sheen to do that. And in Chris Ballard's situation, he had all them years to show that he can build a team that could win a division. And so far, right now, they're looking like what was supposed to be this year, it's slipping away. And Shane Steichen also could be in that category if they blow this little division here that they had. So the AFC South is going to be fun to watch now because the Jaguars are still there and they actually they look all right. Right. I think Jacoby Myers has been a very good addition for Trevor Lawrence development there. The Texans, they got their defense, man, could win any type of game. I think that Kansas City is in trouble going up against that defense right there, so they can take over a game. So the Colts have their hands full, but I'm definitely looking forward to that division.
And the one important part about Ballard, I don't know how I forgot to mention it. Like, this guy traded 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner. If they miss the playoffs,
and he got hurt,
that would be a bad look.
And he just got hurt. We'll see how much time he's gonna miss. But anyway, that wraps up our head coaching hot seat segment. And Zach, until next year, in regards to that,